a single decision took this business owner from working 7 days a week to just 2 days a week, and almost doubled his profit and in turn his take-home pay. Right? This is a really big deal, and every single business owner has to make this decision on a regular basis. So you want to pay attention. So I was talking to a guy called Mike. He's in his mid-40s. He has 2 young kids, one of them with special needs, and he runs a construction company that has been scaling significantly over the last couple of years. Since COVID, it scaled from 2 million to 5 million in revenue, right? And he was super engaged, and he kind of knew what he wanted, and he wanted to really make this business big and build it and grow it to exit. And I said, hey, how did you get started in this industry? Like, well, what's the backstory? And he said, well, he used to be he trained as a structural engineer, and he was a really good one. And he would get hired in, he went to work for a company, and they would hire in structural engineers for particular construction projects. And then over time, he realized he got to make great connections with other structural engineers. So he built up initially like an agency placing structural engineers that would get hired out for general contractors for the jobs. And very quickly, he was making kind of about $500,000 a year with high margins. So a small business, but it was really just him. And then he had these contractors that he would rent out, if you will. But it presented an opportunity, and he got to see inside all these various construction projects, and he realized most of the general contractors had no clue what they were doing. They weren't doing it well, and he realized that he could fill that gap in the market. So he jumped in as a general contractor, and because he already had connections, he scaled very, very quickly. So I said, well, okay, sounds like business is growing great. How can I help you? I said, well, Dan, the problem is that the margins are continually getting squeezed. So as the profit's gone up, as the revenue's gone up, the profit's actually gone down. And there's constantly issues with people. So there's more moving parts. Added to that, in the agency business, the cash flow cycle's quick. On construction projects, big construction, it's really long payment terms. So the quicker you grow, the more negative you are on cash. And it creates a brutal burden. In addition, there was one thing that he wasn't that attuned to. When you're a general contractor, that equates to if things go wrong, you pay the penalty. You face the lawsuits. So now all of a sudden he's working more hours, even though his business is significantly scaled. He's now working 7 days a week, right? Pretty much all day, every day. His margins are getting squeezed. His cash flow is tight, and he's got lots of lawsuits going on, which are high demands, high pressure, high stress all the time. And I said, okay, well, how can I help you? And he said, look, I want to scale the business and I want to exit it. So I just need to figure out a way of attracting better customers, so I'm not dealing with all these niggly issues, these legal issues. I want to develop the right core team and suppliers, subcontractors that I can depend upon. And I went, whoa, wait. That's not what you want. You tell me the things that you think will solve the problems that you have. That's not what you want. What do you really want? Right? And when it came down to it, he said, well, I want to make more money. I went, get specific. And he said, well, look, I've got a young family. He goes, I said, why are you going to exit? He said, well, if I scale up enough, I think I can exit for £5 million. I said, why £5 million? The key, by the way, is asking why. And he said, well, if I have £5 million invested sensibly, that'll make me £250,000 a year. I take them so I can spend more time with my family. Young family, kids are only young ones, and I've also got one child with special needs, and it's put a lot of pressure on my wife. And I said, the problem is like most entrepreneurs, you're an ideas person, right? So you iterate, you're constantly adding things. So you see problems, you add something else to fix it. You see another problem, you add something else to fix that. So you're always adding, so you build this big, complicated mess. It's a Gordian knot. You keep adding, you never subtract. The solution's in the exact opposite, right? So think that another way. I said, you've scaled to 5 million, and all you want is 250,000. It's got to be hiding in here somewhere, right? Like the 80-20 rule. It's not all even. All that revenue's not even. Some of it is super profitable. I said, tell me about when you got started, right? When you were high margin. And he went back to tell me about the agency story and placing the engineers as contractors. I went, do you still have that in your business? He said, yeah, we still have it. I just don't run that bit anymore. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, when I focused on becoming a general contractor, because it was so complicated, I had to learn it, I had to immerse myself. So I hired somebody to take over that part of the business. I said, okay. I said, how's that business doing now? He said, well, it's kind of grown. I said, how much? And it's grown from $500,000 to almost $1 million in revenue, right? And he had and in doing so, that the $1 million in revenue was producing almost £450,000 in profit. And that's not even the best bit. Because he'd hired this manager, I said, how much time do you spend in that part of the business? And he said, not much. I kind of just oversee the manager that runs that part of the business. He was spending maximum 10, maybe at a push 15 hours a week. So this man's knocking down 70 or 80 hours a week, and 15, 20% of his time was on this part of the business that was making him £450,000 a year. I said, look, you're trying to scale this business up to exit, and you've got all these problems and all this stress and all this drama, and yet you're doing all that so you can make £250,000 easily or passively. I said, okay, you've got more than £250,000. You've got 450,000, and okay, it's not passively, but you're working 10 hours a week. And you think the problems with dealing with the legal issues and the supplies and the contracts, it's not. That's surface level stuff. At the deeper level, the issue, the problem that you had was you had a no-brainer idea. That was the assumption that set you off on this path. In other words, how many businesses are killed by no-brainer ideas? So the single decision is, what are you going to focus on? In other words, what are you going to cut? Right? It's a bit like, paraphrasing a quote about Michelangelo's David. Right? He saw a piece of marble and said, I'm going to cut away, or a piece of stone, cut away all these pieces to leave the masterpiece underneath. I'm putting it to you that in your business right now, there's a masterpiece hiding. But rather than adding stuff on, you need to take things away so you can make more money with less effort. I hope you enjoyed that episode. 3 things you need to do now. Number 1, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you do not miss an episode. Also, get on over to Amazon to get a copy of my latest book, Turnover is Vanity, Profit is Sanity, 9.5 steps to improving your profits and cash flow. Also, join our Facebook group, the Turnover is Vanity, Profit is Sanity community, to connect with other business owners.